Hey everyone, welcome back to another video and happy New Year's Eve. I hope you all enjoyed the holidays and spent time with people that you care about. And since it's New Year's Eve, we are literally just hours away from entering 2023. So before that happens, I want to share my K-pop predictions for next year. These aren't necessarily things that I want to happen, these are just my ideas as to what I think could happen. So if one of my predictions is that a group is going to disband, don't get upset with me, okay? Before we get started, I'd like to remind you all to hit the like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And also follow me on Instagram. The link to my profile will be in the pinned comment. But I think that just about wraps up our intro, so without further ado, let's get into prediction number 1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So my first prediction for this video is that we'll be starting to see more and more toxicity and fighting between the fandoms of Lesserafim, I.O.I, and newjeans. When each of these groups debuted and had their first 2 or 3 releases, I saw a huge rise in their popularity, and because of that, the amount of fans that they all had rose more and more every single day. And I would even say that these are the 3 most popular 4th gen girl groups in the world right now. But as we all know, when groups gain more fans, their fans also become increasingly more toxic. Since these 3 are the quote-unquote 4th gen leaders at the moment, there's a lot of animosity between their fandoms. And because of this, I saw so many fan wars and arguments online during award show season, since newjeans, I.O.I, and Lesserafim were the biggest contenders for all of the Rookie of the Year awards. I mean, we have these girl groups that are completely dominating the charts and have so much influence within K-pop as a whole, all of whom debuted less than a year apart, so it's sad but not unexpected that their fans want to claim their favorite of the 3 as better than the other 2. People have already started bashing these groups for every single mistake they make during their performances and are acting like their members don't have talent or deserve their fame, which I personally couldn't disagree with more. Though I'm not super into any of these groups to the point where I watch all of their performances or anything, the moments that I have seen of them on Twitter or TikTok have given me enough information to know that every single idol in these groups deserves their career and popularity. People online seem to think that an idol not having professionally acclaimed singing skills means that they shouldn't be able to record music or be in an idol group, or that every 4th gen group should be vocally on par with senior groups like Sistar or Red Velvet. But honestly, I think K-pop stans are just looking for a reason to be mad when they say this. Even if a group doesn't have amazing singers, you won't be able to tell unless you really analyze and dig deep for that information, because people who produce K-pop songs always process and alter vocals to sound as professional and strong as possible. It's only when people really stan a group or are like obsessed with hating them that they'll even notice any moments where these idols mess up. But since Lesserafim, I.O.I, and newjeans have both so many fans and so many haters, there's always going to be so many antis of all of these groups that are going to record and spread every single mistake that every single one of these groups makes. And as these groups gain more fans and grow in popularity in 2023, the number of fan wars and fights between these fandoms is only going to get bigger. My personal advice for everybody watching who's on Twitter or TikTok is to block or mute anybody engaging or starting these fan wars, because then your life is just going to be so much more peaceful. But yeah, in 2023, newjeans, I.O.I, and Lesserafim are going to become even more popular than they are right now, and because of this, the fandoms of the 3 groups are going to go crazy. My second prediction is that the Y2K inspired trend that created viral K-pop songs in 2022 is going to keep going strong next year as well. Now, when the Y2K sound and aesthetic first started becoming prominent, I initially thought that it would kind of be short-lived. I first saw it make appearances in 2021 with comebacks like Loco by ITZY and The Feels by Twice, but that was mostly seen in the clothing department rather than the music. The baggy low-rise pants, the preppy crop tops, and pattern accessories were all very Y2K, but the songs definitely belonged in other decades. But this year, K-pop really started embracing the musical side of Y2K as well. We of course had the obvious example of newjeans draw inspiration for their R&B singles from artists such as Fergie, Destiny's Child, and Britney Spears, but we also had other genres of Y2K music surge in popularity, most notably pop rock with songs like Tomboy by I.DLE, No Celestial by Lesserafim, or Smiley by Yena. I know a lot of people have this misconception that Y2K only has one sound, but Y2K, meaning year 2000, literally covers the entire period from 2000 to 2009. Like, the entire decade, so there was a lot of different music that was produced during that time. Anyways, we've already seen that this trend can bring success to artists no matter what company they come from, so I think in 2023 we're gonna see the Y2K trend evolve to explore even more types of music that dominated the industry in the 2000s. To be specific, I could really see 2023 facilitating the revival of electropop. Electropop was popular towards the end of Y2K because artists like Lady Gaga released songs such as Just Dance and Poker Face, while Kesha had her smash hit song TikTok when she still had the $sign in her name. So I wouldn't be surprised to see groups take a swing at the genre, considering K-pop companies are likely trying to find a way to do something both trendy and unique at the same time. I honestly hope to see groups like ITZY or Aespa try out electropop the most, since hard beats and digital instrumentals that define electropop would not only be a great Y2K sound to consider, but they would also fit within these groups' discographies pretty well. I also think electropop would be a really good sound for boy groups. I mean, they could easily take inspiration from the works of Western artists like Justin Timberlake, since his songs like Sexy Back are a huge part of Y2K as well. I mean, at the KBS Song Festival, one of the biggest K-pop award shows, the theme this year was literally Y2K, and they had the group Oneus cover Sexy Back, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some groups try out that sound for an actual comeback. It's a pretty great cover, by the way. I would definitely recommend. In conclusion, I think Y2K will still be huge in 2023, and I think the trend will also venture into other styles of music popular during the era, and hopefully we'll start to see some electropop.
Oh my gosh! Don't you know I'm a savage?
My third prediction for 2023 is that we're going to see the quote-unquote downfall of more 4th gen girl groups in terms of popularity. I know it might not seem plausible right now, but after seeing groups like ITZY and Kep1er plummet in mainstream popularity this year, I think it's basically inevitable that some of K-pop's current top dogs will go through the same cycle in 2023. No matter the reason, whether it's because of an unappreciated sound change or simply because newer and more exciting groups debut, certain groups are gonna lose the interest of the general public and will be forced to take a backseat to their more trendy competitors. Regarding which groups I think this is gonna happen to, first of all, I'm pretty sure I.V, NewJeans, and Lesserafim are gonna be exempt from this. Being the most recent Monster rookies, all of whom debuted within the past 13 months, I don't see any of them losing that spotlight anytime soon. Instead, my worries are more directed at groups who have been around for more than 2 years. So in my eyes, it's a real possibility that we might see Aespa or I.dle have a bad year that could permanently undermine their careers. Generally, I feel like these two groups have a much more difficult assignment in front of them to stay relevant that doesn't have very clear instructions. I.dle has sort of built this reputation of having super meaningful music and complex messages, and Aespa are now kind of expected to have really experimental songs that are also super catchy. For these two different reasons, neither I.dle nor Aespa are really allowed to play it safe or do the same thing twice, which makes it difficult to know what to do next. I feel like other 4th gen girl groups are kind of able to follow trends and still do well, but if Aespa and I.dle did what everyone else were doing in terms of music and concept, people would lose interest super fast. But at the same time, even if they do something unique, it's not a guarantee that what they put out will be received well. We saw it a little bit with Aespa this year when their song Girls did noticeably worse than their previous singles, and I fear if their next comeback has anything but overwhelmingly positive reviews, then there will be an even more noticeable drop in popularity that they won't be able to recover from. Other groups that I could see fading into the background a bit in 2023 are StayC and NMIXX. Currently, I feel like these two are in a weird spot right between top tier and middle tier groups when it comes to popularity, so their next comebacks will determine whether they cement themselves in the top or fall into the category of groups that aren't quite there yet. Since both StayC and NMIXX are pretty new, they're still fresh in people's minds. However, they're also in danger of being left in the dust since more monster rookies are gonna debut in 2023. I mean, YG's new girl group is literally supposed to debut like next month. I think there's a limited amount of time that these two have to finalize themselves as permanent figures in the K-pop scene, and if their next songs aren't received super well, then the general public will stop paying attention to them. So last year, I actually had a pretty darn accurate prediction for 2022 where I said that JYP entertainment groups were going to perform significantly worse than SM, YG, and HYBE groups when it comes to their relevance and prominence in mainstream media. And looking back at what happened in 2022, NMIXX really underperformed compared to every other JYP girl group's debut year. ITZY have really fallen out of the good graces of K-pop stans, charting significantly worse than they used to and having super polarizing title tracks. TWICE have become much less cared about within Korea, which was seen with the less than optimal reception of Talk That Talk. And with Stray Kids, honestly, they're kind of exempt from this. Now, after an overall subpar year for JYP, I feel like most people would naturally expect them to do better in 2023. However, to be honest, I think things are just gonna get worse for them. Even though I literally ult ITZY and am rooting for the other JYP groups, I feel like K-pop in general is kind of moving on from JYP entertainment as a whole. Nowadays, it seems like there's a good handful of 4th gen girl groups that are more relevant than both NMIXX and ITZY. So I feel like even when these two groups inevitably have comebacks this year, I don't think there's gonna be too many people anticipating or staying up for them. At least not when you compare them to the more popular 4th gen girl groups. It's hard to sort of sum up what I'm trying to say, but basically I see a downwards trajectory that most JYP groups are taking in their careers, and I only see this pattern continuing in 2023. Just like in my prediction for 2022 though, I do think Stray Kids are gonna continue to grow internationally in 2023 as well. They are steadily gaining Korean fans too, but Stray Kids still have little to no presence in the eyes of the Korean general public, and lack the ability to stay in the top 100 of any domestic music chart. Luckily for them, they have a huge grasp on K-pop fans in basically every other country, and I think it will continue to be the case next year. When it comes to 4th gen boy groups, Stray Kids' popularity is pretty much unmatched, with their only real rival being TXT, so it would take a complete disaster for their momentum to falter. I really only see their next releases expanding on their already massive fanbase and furthering the momentum that they currently possess, so again, they're exempt from this prediction. I feel bad because this video has been pretty negative all around, however, these are just my honest opinions, so my 5th prediction is that 2023 is going to be another bad year for K-pop idols leaving their groups and groups disbanding completely. In 2022, we had literal dozens of idols either voluntarily leave their groups or be forcibly removed, so I don't think 2023 is necessarily going to be on that same level, but I don't think we should believe 2023 is going to be completely peaceful either. Firstly, 2023 is going to start the period where groups who debuted in 2016 are going to have to choose whether or not they want to re-sign their contracts, and I'm not totally convinced all of those idols are going to want to continue their careers within the K-pop industry. To list off just a few groups who debuted that year, we've got WJSN, NCT, Momoland, Pentagon, and Blackpink, and just by reading out those names, there's already reason to believe that not all of those groups are going to make it out of contract discussions in one piece. Just a couple of days ago, we learned that Pentagon is sending one of their members, I.O.I, on the new Mnet survival show Boyz Planet, and Momoland is, well, you know, Momoland, managed by one of the worst companies of all time, so I don't know if they're gonna stick around either. But besides that, I also think we could start to see 4th gen groups break apart a little bit more too. There were a bunch of 4th gen idols who left their groups last year, and I don't really think that the new year coming is gonna do anything to break that trend. From what we've seen, the reason why a lot of these idols chose to depart is because of their mental health, and mental health isn't a thing that people just stop struggling with randomly. Especially since 2023 is probably going to see an increased frequency of overseas events, festivals, tours, and promotions. Busy schedules will probably make some idols realize that maybe the idol life isn't for them, and they'll end up making that hard decision. Of course, I hope this doesn't happen. I hope every member of every group is able to get an appropriate amount of rest and free time between schedules, but if we're being realistic, this probably won't end up being the case. So in my opinion, it's just a matter of time before we get some more unfortunate announcements. And finally, my last prediction for this video is that the group formed through Mnet's new survival show Boyz Planet is going to flop. But Boyz Planet the show won't. This may be confusing, but if we look at the reference material we already have, then you'll understand where I'm coming from with this. To explain a little bit more, I think Boys Planet the show is going to be super viral and create a bunch of online buzz. I think everybody's going to be talking about it on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. It's going to be everywhere. But then, in a similar fashion to what happened to Kep1er this year, I'm not sure the debut group is going to be able to keep the interest of all of the people who watched the show. We saw Kep1er go absolutely viral and be super successful with their debut song Wada Da, but then their first comeback Up didn't perform nearly as well, and their most recent comeback We Fresh had pretty abysmal reception. And I feel like the Boys Planet group is going to go through something similar. I think they'll have a really successful debut, but then for some reason their next comebacks will do progressively worse and worse, leaving them as a sort of middle tier group. I could be wrong, the Boys Planet group could end up being super successful, but if their company wasn't able to market Kep1er well, then I don't know why anything would be different this time around, and that's why I think the Boys Planet group is kind of gonna flop. And that concludes this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you're new to this channel, you might be surprised at how there's only a few predictions despite the video being pretty long, but I tend to do more in-depth analysis and commentary on each subject I cover rather than cover a lot of topics broadly because I don't know, it just feels more satisfying to me. If you liked this video, then most of my content is the exact same way, so I really implore you to go check out the rest of my channel. But before we go, I'd like to thank all of our channel members who you can see their names on the screen here. Lastly, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons. And one more time, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully, I'll be able to see you all in the next video, and without further ado, I'll see you next time. Peace out.